I call upon the spirit of the owl, messenger of wisdom. Welcome to the temple of the owl. Merry meet, seekers of knowledge, for I am Matzal, your host. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day, sending you guys some love and positivity vibration your way. Here at the temple of the owl, located deep in the forests of Northern California. In this episode, we're going to discuss levitating saints and broom magic. This is where we talk about magic on all levels, and it's through the perspective of a modern witch. As always, these are just ideas to help you live a magical life and help you think about things differently. So make sure you take the information and do what you want with it. I want to thank everyone for listening, especially those listening on the KUAP Digital Broadcasting, Troubled Minds Radio Network. Shout out to all my Troubled Minds fam and friends out there. Thank you guys for listening and your support. And just wanted to start the show off with what I call the MOD, or the message of the day. It's a little quote that I find that helps kind of set up the show. And since today we're talking about levitating saints mostly, but we're also going to talk about broom magic. But today's quote is about the saints themselves. And today's quote is, "The bodies of the saints, unburdened by unearthly weight, rise toward heaven as if the soul itself lifts them beyond the reach of gravity." And those are from mystical writings on levitation. And I wanted to talk about this topic because it fascinates me, and I kind of wanted to blend some of the stories into like witchcraft and discuss them with you guys and talk about these things. So let's talk about the levitating saints. The levitating saints are a mystical phenomenon of holy ascension. Throughout history, levitation has been recorded as a miraculous ability granted to certain saints, mystics, and spiritual figures. These individuals were said to rise into the air, defying gravity, often during deep states of prayer, ecstasy, or divine rapture. Now, what is saintly levitation? The levitated saints are those who reportedly lifted off the ground without any physical explanation, often as a sign of their spiritual connection to the divine. The phenomenon has been witnessed by monks, clergy, and even skeptics, making it one of the most mystical aspects of Christian hagiography. Common characteristic of levitation events: they happen during deep prayer, worship, or ecstasy. The saint is often unaware of their own rising. Witnesses describe them as being weightless, glowing, or in a trance-like state, sometimes accompanied by angelic voices, visions, or miraculous scents. The levitation could last from a few moments to several hours. I like that's interesting. Just talking about this, how it can be accompanied by angelic voices, visions, or miraculous scents. I wonder about that, about what people have smelled or what people have witnessed, like the angelic voices and visions after they see someone, a monk, levitating. It's pretty interesting how they have that, how they added that in there, how these other events could accompany the levitation. Let's talk about some famous levitating saints. Some of the famous levitating saints are Saint Joseph of Caperino in 1603 to 1663. He's the most famous levitating saint. He reportedly floated over altars, across rooms, and even into treetops. His levitations were witnessed by hundreds, including the Pope and the Inquisition. He was eventually banned from public life because his levitations caused too much excitement. That's cool. So they banished him just because he was doing something that they didn't understand. And it was a famous levitating saint. Let's talk about Saint Teresa of Avila from 1515 to 1582. A Carmelite nun and mystic, she frequently levitated during prayer. She described the feeling as a mighty force lifting her upward, which she could not resist. Often had to ask fellow nuns to hold her down to prevent from rising. And that's pretty cool. She said that it was like a force was lifting her off the ground. It wasn't her doing it. It was something else picking her up. And I wonder what that's about. And funny how she had to have her other friends hold her down to grab her arm to hold her so she doesn't levitate up into the roof. We have Saint Francis of Assisi from 1181 to 1226. Known for his deep connection to nature and God, he was said to float in the air while in an ecstatic prayer. His followers and monks witnessed him suspended above the ground. He had like a connection. He was connected to something that was helping him lift up off the ground. We have Saint Philip Neri from 1515 to 1595. His levitations occurred while he was praying and meditating. His spiritual ecstasy was so strong that he sometimes had to be physically restrained. And there we have that once again where someone had to hold him down so he didn't levitate out into the sky. I wonder about that. It's really kind of cool thinking about how these people were just levitated out, and if they didn't have something to hold them back or tie them down, where would they end up? We have Saint Apollos Ligori from 1696 to 1787. He would rise into the air while saying Mass or in deep contemplation of God. His levitations were recorded by multiple eyewitnesses. And I think that's cool too, to have people, multiple people witnessing it, trying to figure out what it is, and people like skeptics that don't believe in it, and then to see it for yourself, to see someone float up off the ground, kind of change your perspective, change your idea of how you think about things. Now, some of the theories and explanations, like from a spiritual perspective, levitation is seen as a gift from God. It's a sign of holiness, purity, and the divine. And it's about divine connection. The saints who levitated are believed to be immersed in the divine, that their physical bodies become weightless. Some scientific and psychological theories, some believe it could be related to deep states of meditation affecting the nervous system. It may be a form of disassociation or the trance state. But there's no scientific evidence that explains levitations witnessed by multiple people. Now, the skeptical explanations are people that believe the stories of levitating saints are just exaggerations or myths or symbolic visions. But others could argue that it could possibly be a misinterpretation of ecstatic moments rather than actual floating. Whether one sees saintly levitation as a divine intervention, mystical energy, or legend, the stories remain some of the most awe-inspiring accounts in religious history. And these tales continue to fascinate theologians, scientists, and believers alike, keeping the mystery of the levitating saints alive. And I like to, go back through history and think about these things and talk about these things that we've seen in like some of those dates. Those go way back. So this thing has been happening and has been recorded since throughout history for a long time. So I wonder what's going on there. What's happening there? So the connection between the levitating saints and witches is sacred and forbidden, but while saints and mystics were said to levitate as a divine gift, witches were believed to fly through more occult or forbidden means. The idea of humans defying gravity has existed in both Christian mysticism and witchcraft lore, though the interpretations differ dramatically. Some of the key differences between levitating saints and flying witches. So the levitating saints it's a gift from God and a divine ecstasy, whereas flying witches use magic potions, or some say a demonic aid. Now, back to levitating saints, they have happiness. It happens during deep prayer. Whereas with witches, it happens through rituals, spells, or ointments. With levitating saints, they're often unaware of their levitation. Whereas with witches, they are aware and the flight is intentional. With levitating saints, they were witnessed by monks, priests, and lay people. But with witches, they were feared by the witch hunters and the common folk. They didn't understand it, so they were scared. With levitating saints, when a saint levitated, it was considered holy and miraculous. But when a witch levitates, it's considered evil or heretical. The myth of the flying witches, the medieval witch trials and accusations during the witch hunts, which happened during the 15th to 18th century. Many accused witches were said to levitate in rituals, fly on broomsticks with animals or with spirits, and soar to the Sabbaths of unholy gatherings of witches. Witches would use flying ointments, hallucinogenic potions to create the illusion of flight, flying ointments, and levitating spells. Some historical texts mention flying ointments, the mix of herbs, often including hallucinogens like belladonna, mandrake, or henbane. These are said to cause visions of flying or even physical levitation. The famous witchcraft flight stories include Isabel Godey in 1662 in Scotland confessed under torture that she flew to the Sabbaths with the devil's help. You have Guillaume Edelin in 1453 in France. First recorded confession of broomstick flight. And the New England witch trials in the 1600s, accused witches were said to fly at night, leaving their bodies behind. Interestingly, some Christian mystics accused of witchcraft were also said to levitate, blurring the line between divine miracles and heresy. Saint Joseph of Cupertino was also well known, we talked about him earlier, for floating, and that some accused him of sorcery. So folk healers and the cunning folk, like people who use herbs and spells, were sometimes accused of witchcraft, even if they claim their powers came from God, not the devil. The power of air, levitating saints, and flying witches both represent a defiance of earthly limitations. One through holiness, the other through magic. Whether seen as miraculous or dangerous, stories of levitation reflect humanity's desire to transcend the physical world and touch the unknown. That's really fascinating to me, thinking about how people could fly or how people could defy gravity like that. And I believe that some of the witches maybe were astral traveling, like astral projecting themselves into and meeting each other in the astral realm, not in the physical realm. But let's talk about broom magic, because it fits in here. We have broom magic. It's also known as besom magic. It's sacred, practical, and a symbolic part of witchcraft that has been around for centuries. The broom magic refers to the ritual use of brooms. Sometimes we call them besoms. In witchcraft and spiritual practice, the broom is a tool of purification, protection, and boundary setting. And yes, it's also deeply tied to the image of witches flying through the skies. But its real power goes far beyond the folklore. The broom is rich in symbolism. It has masculine and feminine energy. The handle, the wood, represents the masculine, and the bristles, which are usually straw or herbs, represent the feminine. Together they unite to create a balance tool, making it powerful for harmony and sacred rituals. It's also used as a liminal space tool. It's used to sweep away spiritual debris and create sacred space. It helps mark the threshold between the mundane and the magical. The elemental correspondence of the broom represents the element of air for communication, movement, and cleansing. Depending on the tradition, it can also connect to the earth, which is the wood, the water, which is ritual cleansing, or fire, the transformation. Some ways to use broom magic. We can use it for spiritual cleaning. Sweep your space without touching the floor to remove negative or stagnant energy. Visualize the bristles sweeping away darkness and stress. You could do circle casting. You could use your broom to physically or symbolically draw your circle before ritual spell work. It acts as a wand of protection and a sacred boundary setting. You could use it for house blessings. Sweep from the back to the front of your house, guiding negative energy out the front door. Then sprinkle herbs like rosemary, lavender, or salt at the door for added protection. Speaking of protection magic, hang a small broom over your doorway or above your bed to ward off negative energy, spirits, or nightmares. And you can anoint your broom with protective oils like frankincense, mugwort, or dragon's blood. In ritual flight and meditation, in old practices, witches used flying ointments and meditative traces to ride the broom spiritually, journeying between worlds. Today, some use brooms in guided meditations or dream work to explore astral planes or connect to deities. The iconic image of witches flying on brooms likely grew out of the shamanic practices and holistic salves used to activate trance states. In folklore, witches were believed to ride on brooms to sabbats or the spiritual realms, especially during liminal times like Samhain or the full moon. Let's talk about crafting your own magical broom. You can make your own. You can get a piece of wood from a tree, ash, birch, oak, or willow, and bristles from twigs or straw or herbs. Twine or cord on the bind. And then you could decorate your charms with crystals or charms or ribbons representing your intent, like love, protection, or abundance. Consecrate it under the full moon, and it becomes a powerful personal tool. When you use big transitions or you want to clear your space, you will need your broom, salt water and incense, a white candle, and protective herbs. Light the candle and cleanse the broom with smoke or salt water, and say, with bristles bound and handle strong, sweep away what doesn't belong. With every pass I clear this space, and welcome love, peace, and grace. Walk clockwise, sweeping gently. Visualize golden energy filling the room. Close with gratitude and snuff out the candle. And those are just some ideas. You can make your own broom and consecrate it and use it to sweep away old negativity, sweep away other, the negative energies in your house. It's not for actual physical cleaning. Like, you have your own broom and dustpan for cleaning your house. But this broom is for spiritual purposes, only for energies. And one more thing I want to add, there's a thing about brooms, jumping the broom in hand fasting. When you have, in hand fasting, the people would jump over the broom into the threshold of the house as a symbol of cleansing old negative energies. And I thought that's pretty cool. I just want to talk about broom magic to get that out there. But mostly just talking about the levitating saints and this mystery of what's going on there. How are these saints levitating, and what is happening? Is it some sort of, I have questions. Is it spiritual power? Is it, is it holy? Is it, what's going on there? Why do we have stories of levitating saints throughout history, and that's okay? But when it comes to, the symbolic picture of a witch on a broom with her pointy hat and her cat, why is that so negative or so bad? We see it as a negative thing. And what's the differences between a levitating saint and a flying witch on a broom? Anyways, these are some questions I have. Just want to talk about it and think about this with you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. We're going to be done with this episode, and I just want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for listening to the Temple of the Owl. I'm Matt's Owl, releasing the spirit of the owl. And I want to thank you guys for listening on the KUAP Digital Broadcasting, the Troubled Minds Radio Network. Until next time, you guys, this is Matt's Owl. Blessed be.